All right, so I'm just going to go on a rant. You're going to have to put up with it. You're here because you want to know the truth, right? We know it. I know it. Anybody that agrees with what the Red Sox did, they're lying sacks of shit and they're pussies. Let's call it how it is. Everybody in that front office, the fact that nobody choked Craig Breslow is embarrassing. The fact that nobody punched him in the face is embarrassing. That was one of the worst trade deadlines I've ever seen. Pretty comparable to the one that Chaim Bloom had, where they were over the luxury tax, never in the race, and then he just did nothing. Pretty comparable. Because all this guy is Chaim Bloom 2.0. He's a pussy, and there's no other way to describe him. Craig Breslow should be ashamed of himself, and that trade deadline was utterly disgusting. I'm going to go on a rant, and by the end of this video, you'll know the truth. And the truth of the matter is, I should be running this team, or somebody that has fucking balls should be running this team. This is the Boston Red Sox. The fact that fans have now accepted that they should act like the Oakland Athletics is embarrassing, and I'm fucking tired of it. And somebody needs to say something. So I'm going to do my best to say what needs to be said. And I understand that I'm basically the Rodney Dangerfield of sports media. Can't get respect. Nobody respects. That's fine. You got a lot of things coming from Trey, and when it does, I ain't going to fucking stop, and I'm going to be more of a prick because you ignored me over the last few years. So this is going to be a much-needed rant, and we're just going to get into it. I'm going to share my screen a bunch of times. It might be a bumpy road. I don't have a host, but we're going to do the best we can here. So first things first, this is a fact. This is just a fact. I just wanted to share this one first. I feel comfortable saying this has been the greatest. I think it should say comfortable, not comfortably, whatever. Saying this has been the greatest trade deadline in MLB history for players who are okay. Fact. And you know why it's a fact? Because this is Major League Baseball today. And all these owners, they do the same thing. It's partially the owner's fault, and it's partially the people running the team's fault. You know, when Moneyball came out, it was a unique idea. And, you know, because you're the Athletics, you have to do something different, right? We got it. But now everybody's Moneyball. Everybody's Moneyball. Everybody's Moneyball. Everybody's Moneyball. So now they sit there and they look at their fucking charts and they say, well, if we trade for Luis Garcia, he'll give us a 2.34 better percent chance to make the playoffs. And that's what they did, right? They sat there and they said, well, if we trade for the Lucas Sims, he'll give us a 3.75% chance to better make the playoffs. That's not how you run your fucking baseball team. Leaders do the right thing. Managers do right. We have a manager. The on-field manager, no complaints. But we don't have a leader in that front office. There's an absence of leadership in that front office. You ever notice, they ever build a committee? You know? Like, they don't build monuments for committees. They don't. You go to the Lincoln Monument, Washington Monument, you go to all these monuments. There ain't no fucking committee. This is douchebag Craig who looks at his sheet and he says, well, we need bullpen help. And if we would trade for Danny Johnson and we DFA Reese McGuire, he gives us a 1.25% chance better to make the playoffs. That's what they do. They stare at their sheet. Every fucking team does this, which is why go look at the trade deadline. Everybody that got moved is he's okay. He'll help us. But we don't have to give up a top prospect to get it done. So it's all politics. It's all fucking politics, and it's all nonsense. And until somebody has the balls to do something different, things will not change. This Red Sox team will continue to stay in the mud. And what is the mud? Well, we're not bad because Devers has a big dick and he swings the bat hard. So it's hard to be really bad when we have a third baseman who has 1,000 OPS, right? But it's also hard to be really good when you have no pitching staff. And if Tanner Houck takes a shit in the second half, we're fucked, right? That's how we're going to play this, right? So we're going to keep going here because I'm so disgusted. And the fact that nobody had the balls to choke Craig Breslow yesterday speaks volumes. And you know what the fact is? I know he's being facetious here, but kids don't lie. And I'm sure his son actually did fucking say that, even if he's 5 weeks old. And by the way, these are Section 10 guys. They've been nothing but supportive of this club. Nothing but supportive of this club. Like you notice, they're the biggest fanboys you got going. And even they say that he's a pussy. At some point, somebody's got to look in the mirror and say, what the fuck is wrong with him? Nobody would do it. Silence. This is the problem. Teams were asking for Marcelo Maya and Roman Anthony, and we weren't doing that. So the fans, they should thank us because something a 5-year-old wouldn't do, we didn't do. This is all that really needs to be said. Why is anybody thanking Craig Breslow for doing something that a child would understand not to do? A 5-year-old knows not to give away Marcelo Meyer for a bullpen piece. A 5-year-old knows Roman Anthony isn't available for a bullpen piece. Unless you're John Paul Morosi because you're a scumbag and you don't know any better and you're a piece of shit liar and you're the worst reporter in sports and he botched Ohtani and he botches 800 other things. If this fucking bar of expectation is, well, he didn't trade our top prospects for a rental bullpen piece. Am I smoking crack here? What the fuck is wrong with you people? Like, seriously, that's the bar of expectations? That's what makes a good general manager? I'm going to say this again. Leaders do the right thing. Managers do things right. We have a manager in Craig Breslow. He sat there and looked at his chart and said, whoa, we got a 4.2% chance better if we do this, and this to make the playoffs. It's not how you run your team. It's never been how you run a baseball team. You know how you run a baseball team? You got to get big dicks in the fucking middle of the lineup. That's how you run a baseball team. You need aircraft carriers. Those guys change the trajectory of your ball club. And until you do those things, you will sit here and be an incredibly flawed, above average baseball team that's not really a contender. And by the way, if the season ended today, they wouldn't make the playoffs. So let me get this straight. If the season ended today, the Sox gave up 10 prospects and we're supposed to defend this deadline. But I know the Boston sports media people, they're not educated enough to understand what's going on, so they'll give them a pass. And then they wonder why sports media is dying and nobody wants to listen to them. Again, I'm here to speak the truth. If you don't like the truth, feel free to tune me out. But if you want to know the truth, we'll keep going. I guess we'll look at the prospects here that they got rid of. So, Matthew Lugo's gone. Nick York's gone. Edinson Paulino's gone. Cutter Coffey's gone. Ovis Portes is gone. Zephyr John's gone. Vargas is gone. And the first baseman, Cavadas, is gone. The Notre Dame guy. We're going to reference this a bunch. And because we're going to reference this a bunch, I'm going to show you why Craig Breslow did what he did, right? So if you go to the Rule 5 eligibility, they have a lot of guys to protect. A ton. Not a secret. What Chaim Bloom did is he collected a lot of depth. And if you continue to go down the depth road, actually, I think they got rid of the names that they already traded. So it looks like this has been updated. But imagine Lugo should have been on this list, for example. Nick York should have been on this. Basically, I'm going to describe what he did. What he did is he sat there and he said, we aren't going to be able to protect some of these guys. So you know what we'll do? We'll leave the decision up to the team and we'll say, hey, we'd like a bullpen piece. Which of these 40-man roster guys that we can't add would you like? Is that a way to really improve your club? To just dump 40-man roster depth for middle relievers and say, we'll call it a day. That's all we're going to do. It's a joke and it's fucking laughable. And anybody that fucking defends this shit is insane and should be punched in the face. That's the truth. And you know what? Here's the bottom line. Here's the bottom line. Let's just talk about this. Let's just talk about this. I mean, I didn't have this prepared. Let's just pull this up. Because, baseball's a weird sport and weird things can happen. And we totally understand all of that. But if you really go to the baseball standings, if you really break it down, as we're recording this, the Red Sox are 2 games out of a wild card spot. And they're not a real contender. Never a real contender. Never a real contender. This team's not winning the World Series. Like, I don't know who needs to hear this, but they're not winning the World Series. At some point, you have to have some fucking self-awareness and where your club's at. They're 2 games out of a wild card spot. They could easily make the playoffs. They could easily miss the playoffs. Having said all of that, you decided, as your fucking trade deadline moves, you decided that you were going to dump 10 prospects. Should we count them all? Let's count them all. Danny Jansen, Cutter Coffee, Ensign Paulino, Gilberto Bautista. Let's keep counting them. So that's 3. In the Lucas Sims deal, Ovis Portes, but they also DFA'd Brandon Walter. So that's 5. And maybe Brandon Walter had to be DFA'd anyway, but he counts. Now you go to Luis Garcia, Cavadas, Lugo, Vargas, Zephyr John. That's 9. So they gave up 9 prospects. I just hang with me. They gave up 9 prospects for all rentals on a team that's incredibly flawed and has no chance to win the World Series. Don't sit here and tell me that guy knows what he's doing. Don't, because you're lying to yourself. This team should be set up for when Meyer, Teal, and Anthony come up. That's when it's the rocket launcher. All you did was dump resources into a team that's not winning it. The team, realistically, the way it's set up, should start to turn the corner in 2025, and then 2026 could even really be a World Series year. 2026 could even be a World Series year if you really build this correctly, and they're not. They're not. They're praying that the young kids save them. But you have to supplement talent with the young kids. That's what a big market club does. That's what, guys coming up through the system. I'm trying to think of an example because they just never develop pitching. And maybe Breslow will do that. But, like, here's a perfect example. When they called up Pedroia, and you can go Google this, Pedroia was ass. Like the first month and a half, he couldn't do shit. But they had other guys on the team that carried the load, and then once he figured it out, boom, they go win the World Series. Like, you got to have guys with the young guys. To just say, well, we did what's best for the Red Sox because these young kids are going to save us. Don't fucking work that way. Don't fucking work that way. And there's so many narratives and politics that I'm going to jump into, and we may as well just jump into the narratives and politics right now, because the truth of the matter is they should be ashamed of themselves. It's totally fucking embarrassing. I can't believe this is real life. I can't believe he acts like this big of a pussy. It's just unbelievable. There was one move for the Red Sox to make this deadline. It was for Vlad. This was so obvious. This was so obvious. And Vlad did not get traded. So I can't sit there and say, well, another team pulled it off. Why couldn't you? Maybe they really weren't trading Vlad. But here's what I can say. Why didn't you just offer those 9 prospects for Vlad and say, okay, what else do you want? Because this would have accomplished way more than 3 bullshit relievers that won't be here next year. Maybe they will. Maybe they will be here next year. But they're not even any good. Again, let's talk about this. The Blue Jays are terrible. They sold off so many things. At some point, they have to be real with themselves. Like, at some point, they have to be real with themselves. They traded off how many guys? Make him an offer they can't say no to. Like, at some point, he's available. You just have to have enough balls to get it done. Number 2. Again, when the Red Sox were really good, Manny Ramirez and David Ortiz were the anchor of their lineup. Right now, it's just Devers. And until you get Devers a sidekick, you're not going anywhere. Until you get Devers a sidekick, you're not going anywhere. So just stop with the nonsense. The Yankees, they got Juan Soto for Aaron Judge. Look at their offense, the way it kicked off the middle of their lineup. Again, I already talked about this, the 40-man roster spots. What are you doing here? What are you doing? Why wasn't that done? Why didn't you call him? Call him another time. Make him say no 3 more times. Again, I'm going to say this again. Which would have been better? Jansen, Sims, and Garcia for 9 prospects, or Vlad for those same 9 prospects and then lump in 3 more. You tell me which is the better route. And actually, it's 10 prospects if you include Nick York. Which is the better alternative? Do you think Toronto, who happily took Cutter Coffee and Edinson Paulino off your hands for Danny Jansen? Didn't notice that. Those are two guys they were apparently interested in because they didn't say no. So you made a trade with Toronto. It was just the wrong one. So Toronto wanted those guys clearly. Why couldn't you add 6 more and get a real big dick back? Because until that happens, this team's not going anywhere. Team's not going anywhere, and you don't have a real pitching staff to even go anywhere with. And if Tanner Houck and Crawford take a shit in the second half, we're fucked. So way to go, Breslow. Way to give up 10 prospects for a team that might not even make the playoffs. What do they got? 45% chance to make the playoffs? Then what? Even if they do make the playoffs, who cares? Even if they do make the playoffs, they win a round. Is that good enough? I would argue it's not. I would argue if you gave up 9 prospects, 10 including York, for rental bullpen pieces and you just make the first round of the playoffs, I would say that's not good enough. You wasted your time, which is all he did. Is waste his time. So again, we'll go over each trade. We'll keep things moving. We've got a lot of things to talk about. Here's politics number 1. They're going to tell you and sit there and tell you that, hey, we can fix all these relievers and make them even better than the numbers that they got. See, Lucas Sims, he didn't throw any fastballs during his first outing. Okay, we get it. Andrew Bailey, he likes off-speed pitches. We understand. And and he's helped a ton. I'm not denying that. But at some point, you got to put your ego to the side because this team is writing checks you can't cash. And everybody knows it with a brain. So it's like the politics behind this. Well, we'll put him through the pitching lab, I need something better than that. I need hey, our team's really good. We're only missing bullpen pieces. Then I get it. But you're not just missing bullpen pieces. This is a team where literally, if Tanner Houck takes a shit in the second half of the year, they're done. Like if Cutter Crawford goes on 5 bad starts, they're done. Nick Pivetta already does that half the time. Like you're not even in it. What are you doing? Let's go over each trade now. This one, I can't get on board with. I'm sorry, but I just can't. And Alex Cora already admitted that this trade for Danny Jansen, I should have pulled that article up too. This trade for Danny Jansen didn't make the team better. Alex Cora openly admitted. So they had to DFA Reese McGuire, who defensively is all right. Wasn't hitting the best, but neither is Jansen. Basically, he admitted. Hold on. Where's the line? Oh, right here. As far as like the whole roster, we improve. I don't see it as improving over Reese. I see it as a roster fit that makes a lot of sense. So because Jansen's right-handed, again, it all goes back to these fucking nerds and their fucking charts. Because Jansen's right-handed and they can platoon it better, he sit there and say, well, we have a better fit at catcher, and now we have a 0.356% chance of bettering the team. What the fuck, dude? So what you did, and again, you can't keep all these guys. I understand. But why aren't you going further? If you're calling Toronto, I need Vlad. I need Gaussman. I need help. A backup catcher isn't doing dick, and especially not long-term. I got Teal coming. I got a first-round pick with Teal who's lighting it up in Double-A. And I got Connor Wong who's hammering balls. I got my catcher tandem. No, we got to have one now because apparently this team's winning it all. It's a fucking joke, dude. It's a fucking joke. And the manager admitted, not an upgrade. So you gave Toronto free prospects when it should be Vlad and didn't actually accomplish anything. Awesome. Who could complain about that, right? What a fucking joke. Next one. Lucas Sims. So they gave up 19-year-old, 6'4", throws 99, having great stats here. Has some awesome stats here in A-ball, rookie ball, striking out a ton of guys, right? Where's this kid? Striking out a ton of guys. You gave up a 19-year-old arm, which you claim to be fully invested in developing pitching. For what? For what? Lucas Sims? You gave up a 19-year-old for Lucas Sims? Like, at some point, go fuck yourself. I mean, really. And again, Lucas Sims, pure rental. He's a free agent after the end of the year. So what happens if they don't keep him? Then what? You going to explain to me why you gave up a 19-year-old who throws 99? You going to explain that one after he leaves in free agency because you're too cheap and the ownership's too cheap to extend Sims? Is that how this is going to work? Sorry, that was the dog. I'm going to keep going. Because that's fucking egregious. You're not in the race, buddy. You're not in the race. You're so far out of the race, you think you're in the race. That's the problem. This trade. Again, what a joke. Luis Garcia, he's 37. 3.71 ERA. I can call up a guy from AAA and get me a 3.71. Why am I giving up all this? Like, you're telling me I don't got anybody on AAA because that can't do a 3.71? Like, nobody? A 37-year-old? I can't do better than that? And by the way, the fact that they gave up Matthew Lugo is utterly fucking disgusting. The fact that they gave up Matthew Lugo, people should be sick. This guy, he hit 315 in AA this year. He hit the ball hard. He hit 11 homers in AA. He got promoted. He then hit 5 more in AAA in 35 games. Look, they don't totally know where he's going to play. He's played some outfield. He's played some infield. But Matthew Lugo is a good player. The fact that you're giving this guy up along with 3 more guys, and these guys, whatever, and Cavitas, he's a big bat. Like, he's got some swing and miss. He's not perfect, but man, he's got 17 homers in AAA. Like, you might have something here. Who's to say Zephyr John couldn't have gotten called up and got you a 3.71? Who's to say Zephyr John couldn't have got you a 3.71 ERA? Why not give him a shot? And then you got multiple years of control. Garcia's a free agent at the end of the year. You think they're going to pay him? No, because that's we know how this works. We know how this works. We know exactly how this works. Fucking scumbag. I can't deal with this guy. I'm not even joking. I would have punched him in the face. I would have had to. If anybody had self-pride and dignity in that front office, they would have done the same thing. But we know how this works. Oh, what do you think of this? Let's look at the chart. I'm going to keep going because it's all politics. It's all politics with this shit. It's all nonsense. It's all politics. I'm going to keep going. Teams were asking for Marcelo and Roman, so we have to be smart and give up the other guys. Fuck you, dude. Like, seriously, fuck you.
Yeah, first time in this seat, able to kind of follow the ups and downs, a bit of a roller coaster.
First time in the seat, right? Yeah, you're a fucking douchebag.
Pretty normal for this time of year. I think most fortunately we're able to accomplish what we set out to do.
You stated
what was that? What was that? What did you accomplish? What did you accomplish, Craig? What did you accomplish? 2 rental relievers? Go fuck yourself, you bitch.
Kind of some of the needs that you wanted to us in Colorado. How satisfying.
Pause. I gotta stop. You know why I gotta stop? Because I gotta show you something. Okay, so in the offseason, you DFA'd Caleb Bort. You DFA'd Caleb Bort. Here it is. You DFA'd, and he pitched terrible for you. I understand it. And nobody complained, right? Nobody complained when he got DFA'd. But that's a bullpen piece, right? Nobody complained. And he probably should have been DFA'd. What's he doing in Houston? 159. 159. But you DFA'd him. You determined this guy wasn't good enough. You determined he wasn't good enough. Again, you determined this guy with a 1.59 ERA wasn't good enough. And by the way, why couldn't your pitching machine fix him? If your pitching lab is so fucking brilliant and you guys don't have any problems, why couldn't you fix him? Houston did. Why are we giving up rental relievers when this was an answer? You didn't even properly evaluate your own team. Let's talk about that. Well, how come you didn't properly evaluate your own team? You gave up all these things for bullpen pieces. There it is, 159. Why'd you do that? Can we talk about that? I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going. Schreiber. Now this was an okay deal, right? But again, this was an okay deal. But again, if you needed bullpen pieces so bad, why didn't you just keep Schreiber? And again, this was a good deal. They got Sandlin. I'm not complaining about it. But let's just keep going on some of the bullpen pieces that he missed on that further exposed the douchebag that he is. Okay, so here's Isaiah Campbell. And they traded for Isaiah Campbell. He has a 16.20 ERA. He's on the 40-man roster taking up a spot, right? But Caleb Bort couldn't make your team. That's what I heard. You traded for this guy, right? You traded for this guy. You traded for this guy this offseason. You tried to get a bullpen piece. Traded for Luis Urias, which was fine. No complaints. Luis Urias isn't any good. But again, your pitching lab, I've been told, is brilliant. Your pitching lab fixes everybody. You defend your pitching lab because Andrew Bailey can do no wrong. Last year, he was a 2.73. How's that possible? How come he pitches well for Seattle, but he can't pitch well for you? But your pitching lab knows everything, right? Like, do you see how fraudulent you are? Do you see the lack of team building that you have? You tried to solve the problem. You didn't. All you did was create more depth upon the depth that you have that doesn't fix the problem. That's Breslow to a T. He shows us who he is. Believe him. Again, let's go back to the Chris Sale trade. You told us this was our answer at second base. This is why you did all these things. You gave up Chris Sale. You got Vaughn Grisham. What did Vaughn Grisham give you? You know why Nick York got traded? Because you're a piece of shit and you got this wrong. And you didn't have the spot because he took his spot. You can't make it up. Again, I'm showing you things that he's done. There's no hiding this. All I heard the whole deadline is, well, we probably need another middle infield bat. What happened to the one you traded for? What happened to the Isaiah Campbell that you traded for? What happened to the Caleb Bort that you DFA'd? What have you gotten right? What have you accomplished?
Are you with the acquisitions?
Yeah, I think anytime you can go to a deadline with a pretty clearly defined shopping list and walk out.
Really? A defined shopping list? Who's defining the list? There's holes all over this roster. Like, because you said it's a list?
Feeling like you accomplished it. I think you feel good about it. I think this team has shown that they are more than capable. We're winning. We have our.
You're not in a playoff spot.
That's our sight set pretty squarely on the playoffs, and
you're not in a playoff spot.
Deserve some reinforcements. So I think the combination of what we were able to bring in over the last couple of days and some guys getting healthy positioned us really well.
I'm going to show this one now.
To be deserving of adding and improving. When I said that I think this team has positioned itself to be deserving of adding and improving, we were able to do that, but also that I was going to be anchored to doing what I thought was best for the Red Sox. And if that meant that there was an opportunity to add a massive amount of talent,
massive amount of talent? Who? Who's the massive amount of talent? Like who? Who's the massive amount of talent? Luis Garcia? How many All-Star appearances he got? Lucas Sims? How many All-Star appearances he got? That's how you define massive talent, right? Danny Jansen. Does he have any All-Star appearances? He actually might have one. But like, what the fuck, dude?
At the expense of one of those guys that we had to listen, and we set a very high bar that would have needed to
high bar,
and it wasn't. So I think we are certainly a better team because those guys are here, and look forward to.
How much better are you, Craig? How much better are you? 2.345%. Fuck you.
People talk a lot about the Kikuchi trade.
What a fucking dickhead. I'll just run through the roster here really quickly, and we'll call it. We'll call it. We'll run through the roster here, and we'll call it, because this will probably properly describe what needs to be said. Okay, so this is your pitching staff. You have no ace. You have no ace. You want to know what I would have done? Pavetta, he's a rental. He's available. Where is Kenley Jansen available? Chris Martin, you're also available. Who else is a rental? I would have sold. I'm gonna just be honest with you. Based on some of the prices that these bullpen arms went for, and some of these starting pitch, like why didn't you trade Pavetta? Like why not? Are you going to give him a qualifying offer next year? I wouldn't. You could have gotten something for him. No, the way pitching prices weren't. Why couldn't you do a little buying and selling? Why couldn't you sit there and say, well, we're 2 games out of a playoff spot. These pitching prices are insane. Why don't we put Pavetta on the block? Why don't we put Jansen on the block? Why don't we put Martin on the block? Why don't you do that? Why not get long-term pieces that can actually help this team instead of trading 9 prospects for rentals? Because that's idiotic. Nobody agrees with that decision. Like, you're going into a postseason series with this, and you're telling me you're in it. Like, this is your postseason, and you think you're in it. I think you're delusional, and there's no reason why you couldn't have traded Pavetta and then still brought in Paxton, because you got Paxton for free. Why not trade Pavetta for a haul and give Cooper Criswell the spot back? The Tanner Scott trade, you could have gotten something great for Jansen. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Are you even going to sign Jansen back next year? My guess is no. He's turned into a success story. Had nothing to do with acquiring him, though. Who's the big dick bat? Where is he? You got Devers, and O'Neill's kind of like... O'Neill's a great 5-hole hitter. But who is your 3-hole hitter? You don't have one. Maybe it's Yoshida, but I don't see enough power from him. So, again, I'm disgusted. He's a piece of shit. Somebody should have punched him in the face. The fact that he's bragging about not trading people that a 5-year-old would understand is so fucking embarrassing. So, got nothing else to say. That's it. Feel free to comment, but if anybody had an ounce of self-pride and integrity, they would have punched him in the face. And it's insane that nobody's called me, because I guarantee, I'd bet my life on it. I would put a bullet in my head right now. I would bet anything on it. I would build a better baseball team than him. No question. I've shown you who he is. I know who he is. It's, well, we need bullpen pieces. What happened to the ones you traded for and sucked?